Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Dithini De Silva. Let's take a look at your headlines.
Indian Prime Minister Modi invites President Wickremesinghe to visit India. India decided not to wait on others and extended financing assurances to IMF to clear the way for Sri Lanka to move forward, says Dr. Jaishankar. Police obstruct protest march by university teachers. MP Mujibur Rahman steps down from Parliament. Campaign financing bill will not impact the local government election. Accepting bonds for local government election concludes. Deadline for nominations tomorrow.
Multiple trade unions protested in Colombo against the government's tax regime. Multiple trade unions, including the Government Medical Officers Association, the Federation of University Teachers Associations and others, took part in the protest. Newsfirst correspondent said the protest, which commenced adjacent to the Science Faculty of the University of Colombo, was moving towards the Ministry of Finance. Protesters said the government's arbitrary tax policy is unfair. The protesters also urged the government to immediately solve the medicine shortage that has crippled the health service.
අඩු ලෙවල් එකේ දැනුම අඩු මිනිස්සු අර භාෂාව කතා කරනකොට සාක්ෂරතාවයේ අඩු මිනිස්සුන්ට පුළුවන් නම් ඒ රටවල ආණ්ඩු වෙනස් කරන්න මේ සාක්ෂරතාවයේ 97ක් වෙච්ච රටක පාලකින්ව හරි දිශානතේ ගෙන යන්න බැරි නම් අපි මොකද්ද කරලා තියන්නේ දෙයනේ.
Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says the full implementation of the 13th Amendment and the early provincial council elections are critical. He held a joint media briefing with Foreign Minister Ali Sabri in the presence of President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
My primary purpose of coming to Colombo at this time is to express India's solidarity with Sri Lanka during these difficult moments. As you all know, last year India extended about $4 billion in terms of credits and rollovers to help Sri Lanka get through an economic crisis. For us, it was an issue of neighborhood first and not leaving a partner to fend for themselves. This year, in a developing situation that was beginning to cause concern, the same sentiment reasserted itself. We felt strongly that Sri Lanka's creditors must take proactive steps to facilitate its recovery. India decided not to wait on others, but to do what we believe is right. We extended financing assurances to the IMF to clear the way for Sri Lanka to move forward. Our expectation is that this will not only strengthen Sri Lanka's position, but ensure that all bilateral creditors are dealt with equally. While doing that, we also know that Sri Lanka's pathway is one of a strong economic recovery propelled by greater investments. Here too, I have a clear message that I will be sharing with the business community. India will encourage greater investments in the Sri Lankan economy, especially in core areas like energy, tourism and infrastructure. We count on the government of Sri Lanka to provide a more business-friendly environment to create a powerful pull factor. I'm confident that the gravity of the situation is realized by policymakers here. Energy security is today one of Sri Lanka's most serious challenges. A search for solutions must necessarily encompass the larger region. Only then will Sri Lanka get the full benefit of scale. This country has enormous renewable energy potential that can become a sustainable source of revenue. It has the capability as well for Trincomalee to emerge as an energy hub. In its support for Sri Lanka, India is prepared to be a reliable partner on such initiatives. We have today agreed in principle on a renewable energy framework that would take this cooperation forward. Tourism is the lifeblood of the Sri Lankan economy. I note that Indian tourists are expressing their positive sentiments for Sri Lanka in a very, very practical manner by coming here. But there are many more steps we can take to make this sustainable. Strengthening connectivity and promoting travel is therefore a very high priority for all of us. Definitely, encouraging Indian tourists to make RuPay payments and utilize the UPI would be most helpful in this regard. In a turbulent world, it is essential that India and Sri Lanka steady their trade. The use of rupee settlement for trade is obviously in our mutual interest. Friends, India has always supported both the political and economic stability of Sri Lanka. The President briefed me on the question of political devolution and his thinking. I shared with him our considered view that the full implementation of the 13th Amendment and early conduct of provincial elections are critical in this regard. Durable efforts towards reconciliation are in the interests of all sections in Sri Lanka. I also spoke of the need to pay special attention to the requirements of the Indian origin Tamil community. I handed over Prime Minister Narendra Modi's invitation to President Ranil Wickremesinghe to visit India at an early date to discuss how our partnership can facilitate Sri Lanka's strong recovery.
Foreign Minister also spoke at the briefing.
We are all aware that Sri Lanka is at a decisive moment in discussion with the IMF. In order to place our economy on path of IMF-assisted recovery, we needed the timely assurances from our creditors. Once again, India has extended its hand in support of the first country to officially back our debt restructuring program by conveying financial assurances to the International Monetary Fund. Dr. Jayashankar, we are profoundly grateful to India for once again demonstrating your confidence in and solidarity with Sri Lanka. On the areas of bilateral cooperation, a number of important initiatives were concluded in the presence of His Excellency here at the Presidential Secretariat this morning. This includes signing off an MOU on Indian grant assistance for implementation of high-impact community development projects, which mainly focuses on socio-economic development infrastructure in education, health, and community development sectors. Minister Jayashankar also participated in 3 virtual inauguration ceremonies. One was to hand over the Kandyan Dancing Academy under the Sri Dalada Maligawa Heritage Project. The second was to hand over 24 houses each in Anuradhapura and Badulla district under the Model Housing Village Project. And the third virtual opening was to hand over 300 houses under Phase 3 of Indian Housing Project, 100 houses in each in Kandy, Nuwara and Galle district. In addition to the above, during our bilateral discussion, we have explored the possibilities of further collaboration in the coming years as Sri Lanka hopes to recover and grow. The long-standing bilateral relationship between Sri Lanka and India are based on cultural and historical links, shared values, and growing economic connection. It is widely accepted that India will be soon, or otherwise already, is one of the largest and fastest growing economies. India's largest source of tourists to Sri Lanka. We believe that India's growth will be beneficial to the region as well as to Sri Lanka. For its part, Sri Lanka is confident to recover from the current crisis with the goodwill and partnership of India for mutual benefit. We are watching India's economic success and international prestige with great admiration. India has recently taken over the chairmanship of G20. We have noticed with respect also the intellectual impetus in favor of the global south that Prime Minister Modi and yourself, Dr. Jayashankar, personally have infused into the international agendas. Dr. Jayashankar, I take this opportunity to thank you once again for your visit to Sri Lanka and for all the support that you continue to extend to my country. I now give the floor to Honourable Minister Dr. Jayashankar.
Thank you.
The US Navy and Marine Corps began the Corporation Afloat Readiness and Training and Marine Exercise with the Sri Lanka Navy and Sri Lanka Air Force in Colombo.
Karat Marek, Sri Lanka is a joint bilateral maritime exercise taking place ashore in Colombo and at the SLN bases in Trincomalee and Mulikulam. The sea phase will take place in the Laccadive Sea. This year's exercise includes participants from the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force and Maldives National Defense Force and coincides with the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations and partnership between the United States and Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka Navy offshore patrol vessels SLNS Gajabahu and SLNS Vijayabahu will meet the San Antonio class amphibious transport dock USS Anchorage with embarked 13th Maritime Expeditionary Unit at sea. Training will focus on humanitarian assistance and disaster relief as well as air defense, small boat operations and replenishment at sea approaches. Additional participating U.S. assets include a P-8A Poseidon and personnel from the U.S. 7th Fleet, Commander Task Force 72, CTF-73, CTF-76/3, Desron 7 and Amphibious Squadron 7. USS Anchorage of the United States Navy arrived at the port of Colombo to take part in the Cooperation of Float Readiness and Training Exercise 2023. Upon her arrival, the visiting ship was welcomed by the Sri Lanka Navy in compliance with naval traditions. USS Anchorage is a 208-meter-long San Antonio-class amphibious transport dock manned by 477 crew members, and she's commanded by Captain Keeler D.J. The ship will depart the island on the 27th of January 2023 on completion of CARAT 2023.
With the aim of further developing the friendship between Sri Lanka and China, the opening ceremony of the Friendship New Year Festival, held in conjunction with the Chinese Spring Festival, was held yesterday at the President's Girls' College, Colombo. During the event, prizes were distributed for students who took part in an arts exhibition.
විද්‍යාලයේ ගරුණීය උච්ච විදුහල්පතිතුමිය වන
Will elections be held before the 10th of March 2023? 50 days more.
The accepting of bonds for the local government election concluded at noon. Elections Commissioner General Saman Sriratnayaka stated that the acceptance of nominations for the local government election will end at noon tomorrow. The acceptance of postal vote applications for the local government election will end on the 23rd of January. Several political parties and independent groups placed bonds and submitted nominations today.
The Sri Lanka Podu Jana Peramuna handed over nominations to contest from the Kalutara district. Nominations were handed over for 2 urban councils and 6 Pradeshya Sabhas in the Kalutara district. The nominations were handed over by a group including MP Rohita Abegunawardena. The SLPP handed over their nominations for the Aheliyagoda electorate. New Minister of Wildlife and Forest Resources Development Pavitra Wanyarachchi were present as well. United National Independent Front placed bonds for 5 local government bodies for the Galle district. An independent group also placed bonds to contest for the Galle Urban Council.
The National Election Commission said that the passage of the Regulation of Election Expenditure Bill will not be an obstacle to hold the local government election. Commissioner General of Elections Saman Sriratnayaka, speaking to Newsfirst, said that following the passage of the bill, the necessary measures for election campaign financing need to be prepared.
The Regulation of Election Expenditure Bill was passed in Parliament. The bill will be implemented after the relevant amendments are approved by the Working Committee and after it is certified. We have begun work for the election. The bill will not affect the election. New legal reforms are being presented to conduct the election well. The Commission is formulating the relevant regulations. After Parliament approves the bill, the law comes into effect immediately. Therefore, the details of the bill will apply for the election.
Samagi Jana Balawegaya parliamentarian Mujibur Rahman announced his resignation from parliament to contest for the post of mayor of Colombo.
අපි දන්නවා අද වෙනකොට පළාත් පාලන ඡන්දය කැඳවලා තිබෙනවා.
The nominations have been called for the local government elections. The deadline for submitting nominations falls tomorrow. Based on the decision made by the working committee of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya, I wish to inform you that in order to contest the post of mayor of the Colombo Municipal Council, I would step down from the post of member of parliament. I request the government to protect the democracy and the rights of the people of this country. I am requesting the government to refrain from making any attempts to delay this election or create any obstacles to conduct the elections, and as a responsible government, create an environment for the Elections Commission to conduct the elections.
මේ මැතිවරණයට බාධා පමුණවන්නේ නැතුව රජයේ වගකීමක් හැටියට මේ මැතිවරණයට පවත්වන්න කොමසාරිස් කොමිසමට අවශ්‍ය සියලු වාතාවරණයක් කටයුතු සලස්වා දෙන්න කියලා මම ආණ්ඩුවෙන් ඉල්ලා සිටින්න කැමැති.
Actor Alec Baldwin will be charged with involuntary manslaughter over the shooting of cinematographer Helena Hutchins, who was killed on a film set when he fired a prop gun.
Baldwin had been rehearsing a scene for the Western film Rust when the shooting happened at a ranch near Santa Fe, New Mexico in October 2021. Hannah Gutierrez
United States and some of its European allies have announced significant new arms donations to Ukraine, including armored vehicles and heavy weaponry, ahead of a crucial meeting on bolstering the country's defenses nearly a year after Russia invaded.
The US said its package of military support, which includes armored personnel, carry
cost to their customers.
Core consumer prices for last month rose by 4% from a year.
These are some views that were expressed in regard to the local government election.
Chief Executive of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya, Attorney Ajit P. Pereira, noted that the passage of the Election Expenditure Bill will not pave way to delay the local government election.
The election cannot be delayed. This act says that the National Election Commission must prepare the regulation for campaign financing and publish it via the Gazette. That is the framework. The act will only come into effect when the regulations are prepared. This election cannot be delayed, and doing so is illegal as per the law and the rights enshrined in the Constitution.
And that's the wrap of your lunchtime news. Stay tuned for more of the very latest. Thank you for watching.